Okay, here we have certain problems, and we need to, of course, get a solution for these problems regarding the chapter about elasticity. Of course, the first question, of course, for each of the following, identify where demand is elastic, inelastic, perfectly inelastic, or unit elastic. We have already discussed, the meaning of these, elasticity terms. We have already said that, demand is elastic when the coefficient of price relative demand is greater than 1, of course, the absolute value. And demand is inelastic when the percentage, when the coefficient of the price relative demand is between 0 and 1 or less than 1. And demand is unit elastic when, of course, the coefficient is equal to 1. The coefficient of the price relative demand is equal to 1. And it is perfectly elastic when the, of course, coefficient of the price relative to demand is equal to infinity, and it is perfectly inelastic when it is equal to 0. Now, here, of course, we need to, of course, here in each of the following, we need to identify whether demand is, elastic, inelastic, perfectly elastic, and other, concept of it. Price rises by 10%. So the percentage change in the price is 10%. And the quantity demand falls by 5%. In other words, the percentage change in quantity demanded is decreases or is 5%. So we just, plug these in the formula of the coefficient of the price versus demand, which is ED, is the absolute value of the percentage in quantity demanded over the percentage change in the price. Of course, when we do that, we come up with 1/2, which is less than 1, which is, inelastic. Okay? Now, part B, price falls by 6%. That means the percentage change in the price is equal to 6%. Okay? Negative 6%. And the quantity demand does not change. Okay? So here we just plug these, these data in the coefficient here. ED is equal the percent, of course, the absolute value of the percentage change in quantity demand over the percentage change in the price. Of course, we come up with 0% over minus 6%. Of course, the percentages will cancel out, and we come up with 0 over 6. We come up with 0. This is perfectly inelastic. Okay? This is perfectly inelastic. C, price rises by 2% and the quantity demanded falls by 10%. So we plug these data in the coefficient, of price elasticity of demand. We come up with, of course, minus 10% over 2%. You get 10% over 2%. You come up with 5, and it is greater than 1, so it is elastic. Question 2, for each of the following, identify whether total revenue rises, falls, or remains constant. Demand is inelastic. So demand is inelastic. This means the percentage change in the quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in the price. And the price falls. In this case, when demand is inelastic, okay, total revenue follows the price. So the price falls, it means total revenue falls. Total revenue decreases or falls. Okay? Why? The percentage in the quantity demanded is less than the percentage in the price, and the price falls, therefore total revenue falls. B, demand is elastic. Demand is elastic means the percentage change in the quantity demanded is greater than the percentage in price. And therefore total revenue in this case follows the quantity demanded. Okay? So quantity demanded, of course, increases, therefore total revenue increases. Okay? Demand is unit elastic and the price rises. So when we have unit elastic demand, that implies the percentage change in the quantity demanded is equal to the percentage change in the price. Therefore, total revenue does not change. Okay? We have problem 3 say that the city of Houston in the state of Texas in the United States is hit by a severe tornado. Is hit by a severe tornado. As you can see, a tornado will cause lots of destruction in that area. So that destroys 30% of its housing. 30% of the housing in the area of Houston, is destroyed because of the tornado. Would you expect total expenditure on housing after the tornado to be greater than, less than, or equal to what it was before the tornado? Explain your answer. First of all, remember that this tornado, this severe tornado, is part of, of course, adverse supply shock. So it causes an adverse supply shock. And an adverse supply shock will cause the supply curve to decrease, that is, to shift leftward. And as a result of the decrease in the supply curve, the price will increase. Okay, so the price increase. Now the question becomes, is whether, total expenditure, is greater than or less than. So the question is to compare the percentage in quantity demanded with the percentage in the price. Okay, if the percentage in the quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in the price, which means that we have an elastic demand, then what? Then in this case, because the price increases and the demand is elastic, therefore total expenditure after the tornado is going to be less than total expenditure before the tornado. Simple as that. Now, if the percentage change in the quantity demanded is less than the percentage in the price, which means we have an inelastic demand. In this case, you have an inelastic demand and the price rises, therefore total expenditure will increase. Total expenditure will increase. So, which means that total expenditure after the tornado is greater than total expenditure before the tornado. The third case is if the percentage change in quantity demanded is equal to the percentage change in the price, which means we have a unit elastic. So that implies there is no change in total expenditure, okay, which means that the total expenditure after the tornado is the same as total expenditure before the tornado. Simple as that. Okay, question number 4. Of course, it says in each of the following pairs of goods, which has the higher price elasticity of demand. Okay, we have here, few goods and services. We're gonna, of course, determine which one has higher price elasticity of demand. Airline travels in the short run or airline travel in the long run. Which one is, has higher price elasticity of demand? You see, as we discussed in the chapter, that we said as time passes, consumers, of course, will have more information about goods and services. Therefore, will have higher opportunities to be responsive to price changes. Therefore, in the long run, consumers will have enough time to decide, about the goods, whether, to change, they have higher opportunities to be responsive to any price changes. Therefore, we expect airline travels in the long run to have more or higher price elasticity of demand than airline travels in the short run. Okay, because as time passes, consumers will have higher opportunities, and more information about the goods, okay, to be responsive to any, changes in the price. The B, television sets or Sony television sets. As you can see, television sets, is a tool, that give, shows or shows, movies or whatever. And Sony television sets is a kind. You have hundreds of, kinds of television sets. So here you have more substitutes than here. Television sets, you probably have 1, 2, or 10 or 15, substitutes of television sets that can, show you, these shows. However, over here, Sony television sets, is a brand of television. Of course, in the market, you have hundreds of brands. Therefore, you have more substitutes, here than over here. Therefore, the good that has higher substitutes, more substitutes, has the higher price elasticity of demand. Therefore, we expect Sony television sets to have, higher price elasticity of demand because it has more substitutes than television sets. Now, what about cars or Fords? Of course, cars has less substitutes than Fords. Fords is a brand of a car. What substitutes do we have for cars? Of course, you can have walking is a substitute. We can have bicycling. We can have, taking a bus, getting on a train, for instance. These are, substitutes of the cars. But how about brands of cars? You have hundreds of brands. Mercedes, BMW, Toyota, Cadillac. You have hundreds and hundreds of brands of cars. Therefore, here we have more substitutes than cars. Therefore, Fords will have higher price elasticity of demand than cars. Same thing goes with telephones or AT&T telephones. AT&T is a brand of telephones or is a kind of, way of delivering, telephones. However, telephones, what substitutes telephones, what substitutes we can have of telephones? Of course, you have very few substitutes. Perhaps, instead of telephones, you can have, for instance, getting the information through emails or through the mails. You have a few substitutes. However, here you're going to have hundreds of firms that deliver telephones, AT&T or MTC or Alpha or whatever, kinds of or brands of telephones, that belong to companies. In each country you have many companies that deliver telephones. Okay, here in Lebanon, for instance, we have MTC, or we have government firm that give you telephones. For instance, we have here MTC or Alpha or whatever firms we have. So AT&T telephones, of course, it has more substitutes than telephones. Therefore, AT&T telephones has the higher price elasticity of demand. What about popcorn or Orville popcorn? Orville popcorn is, a type of, it's a popcorn. However, it has different ingredients, perhaps, and its name is Orville. Somebody might make another, kind of popcorn with different, ingredients, and we'll name it, a different, give it a different name. So here you have more substitutes for this, more kinds of popcorn. However, popcorn as a popcorn, I don't know how many substitutes it has, perhaps very small amount of substitutes for popcorn. Okay? So therefore, Orville popcorn has the higher price of demand than popcorn, because instead of buying Orville, you can buy another brand or different brand than Orville. You have many brands of popcorns in the market. Some popcorn has this type of taste, other have a different taste, and so on and so forth, and with different names, of course. So Orville popcorn has the higher price elasticity of demand than popcorn. Coca-Cola or soft drinks, of course. Soft drinks, of course, Coca-Cola, of course, has higher price elasticity of demand than soft drinks. Instead of Coca-Cola, you can have many brands: Pepsi, Miranda, Sprite, and so many, kinds of soft drinks. However, soft drinks, perhaps you have few substitutes of soft drinks. Okay, therefore, Coca-Cola has the higher price elasticity of demand than soft drink. What about salt or gold ring? Of course, here, salt, of course, remember when we talked about, the determinants of price elasticity of demand, we said that one of the determinants is the percentage of one's budget spent on a good. The higher the percentage of one's budget spent on a good, the higher the price elasticity of demand. As you can see, how much of your budget is spent, or what percentage of your budget is spent on salt? It's nothing. It's very negligible compared to the percentage of your budget spent on a gold ring. Therefore, the expectation is that salt, here, of course, here we look at gold, of course, ring Y. Sorry, gold ring, of course, is the higher price, has the higher price demand than salt, because we devote a big percentage of our income or our budget on gold ring than in salt. Therefore, gold ring has the higher price elasticity of demand. Okay, now we move to solve problem 5. Problem 5 says it's a wordy question or wordy problem. It says it has been said that if government wishes to tax certain goods, it should tax goods that have inelastic rather than elastic demand. What is the rationale for this? Of course, the answer of this question basically depends on the government's motives from taxing these goods. Depends on the government objectives from taxing these goods. If the objective of the government is to gain more tax revenues, then the government should tax the goods that have inelastic demand. Why should the government do that? Why should the government tax the goods that have inelastic demand rather than elastic demand? Taxing the inelastic demand goods will not cause the quantity demanded to go down or to decrease greatly. And therefore, this won't harm the producers of these goods. Therefore, the government will be able to gain more tax revenues by taxing these inelastic goods. However, if the government if the government motive or objective from taxing these goods is to discourage consumers from buying these goods or consuming these goods, then the government should tax the goods that have elastic demand. Why is that? Because taxing elastic demand goods will basically reduce the quantity demanded greatly. In other words, it will cause consumers to buy less of these goods. For instance, if the government wants to discourage consumers from, purchasing goods like alcohol or tobacco, then taxing these goods, of course, will cause them to reduce their consumption greatly. And so they will buy less of these goods. So here, actually, the answer of this question, of course, we have to basically differentiate between taxing inelastic goods and taxing elastic goods. So taxing inelastic good will make the government to gain more tax revenue. Why? Because the inelastic goods, when the government taxes these goods, of course, this taxation of these goods won't, reduce the quantity demanded of these goods greatly. And so basically, government will be able to gain more revenues when it taxes these goods. Okay? Now, taxing the elastic goods will cause consumers to buy less of these goods. Because, when the government taxes the price elastic goods, then, of course, the quantity demanded will decrease greatly. And so consumers, as a result of this, will buy less of these goods, and therefore, taxing these goods will do the purpose of the government to discourage consumers from buying these goods. So here we say taxing the elastic goods will cause consumers to buy less of these goods. Okay? So this is basically the answer of this word problem. Okay, now problem number 6, it says, say that the government wishes to tax certain goods. It should tax goods that have inelastic rather than elastic demand. What is the rationale for this? Of course, here the answer, of course, will depend on the government's intention or motives from taxing these goods. If the government intention is to gain, more revenues, then the government should tax the goods that have inelastic demand. Why is that? Because taxing these goods, of course, will not, reduce the quantity demanded greatly, and therefore it won't harm the producers, and consequently the government will gain more tax revenue by taxing these inelastic goods. However, if the government objective is to discourage consumers from the consumption of these goods, then the government should tax the goods that have elastic demand. Why is that? Because taxing the goods that have elastic demand will, cause consumers to buy less. That is, they will reduce the quantity demanded by or greatly. They will cause consumers to reduce the quantity demanded greatly, because as you know, when the good have elastic demand, then the percentage in the quantity demanded is much larger than the percentage in the price. Therefore, to discourage consumers from consuming a certain goods, say for instance tobacco or alcohol, then the government should tax the goods that have elastic demand. Okay, and by doing so, consumers will buy less of these goods. Okay, great. Now we move to the other question, which is question number 7. It says the below table, this table over here, provides the price elasticity of demand for movie tickets as measured by the elasticity coefficient. Okay, here in this table, as you can see, we have 3 columns. The first one consists of the total quantity of tickets demanded per week, of course, thousands. And then in the second column we have the price of ticket, and then the third column we have the elasticity coefficients. So here the demand equation for movie ticket is given by P equal 9 minus Q, where Q is the quantity, of course, quantity demanded. Now this is the table, as you can see over here, and we have 3 different questions concerning this problem. The first question is that what is the value of the maximum total revenue? TR, total revenue. What is the value of the maximum total revenue? Now, of course, here, as you can see, we have a downward straight line demand curve. And as you know from our discussion in this chapter, that, along a downward straight line demand curve, we have, the coefficient of price elastic demand will vary from highly elastic at the top range of the, demand curve to a highly inelastic to the lower range of the demand curve. In the middle of the demand curve, we have a unitary elastic demand curve. That is, the coefficient of price elastic demand is equal 1. Therefore, and as you know from our discussion, that in the elastic portion of the demand curve, when a price decreases, that implies total revenue will increase. And in the inelastic portion of the demand curve, when a price decreases, then, total revenue will decrease. Total revenue in the inelastic portion will follow the price, and total revenue in the elastic portion will follow the quantity demand. So if the price decreases in the elastic portion, then total revenue, of course, will increase. And if a price decreases in the inelastic portion, then total revenue, of course, will decrease. Now, what is the value of the maximum total revenue? So we gain maximum total revenue where in the in the portion of the demand curve that is unitary. It is unitary where in the middle of that straight line demand curve. So it is here, between 5 and 4. Okay, and total revenue basically is what? Is the product of the price times the quantity. Here we take the price as the average of the price, okay, of the prices, and the quantity is the average of the quantities. Okay, so now, as you can see over here, it is the coefficient of price elasticity demand is 1 between 5 and 4. So we take the average of 5 and 4. So the average of 5 and 4 is that equal 4.5. And the average of 4 and 5, the quantity, is also 4.5. Therefore, total revenue is going to be equal 4.5 times 4.5, which is equal 20.25. This is the maximum total revenue. Now, we move to, of course, the second, question, which is what do you expect to happen for total revenue as the price of a movie ticket decreases from 8 to 7. As you can see, 8 to 7 is in the top range of the demand curve, where elasticity is, where the coefficient of price elasticity of demand is greater than 1, which is elastic. So when the price of ticket decreases in the elastic portion, it is expected that total revenue will increase. Total revenue will increase. Okay? Why? Because when you decrease the price in the elastic portion of the demand curve, then the expectation is that total revenue will increase. Now, the third part of the questions here, use total revenue test to prove that demand is inelastic as price decreases from 3 to 1. As you can see, 3 to 1 is what? Is in the inelastic portion of the demand curve, okay? Because when a price is 3, the coefficient of price elasticity of demand is 0.64. When a price is 1, the coefficient of price elasticity of demand is 0.2. Therefore, it is inelastic. So here we have to use the total revenue test, okay, to prove that, to prove that demand is inelastic, okay? We know that when a price decreases in the inelastic portion of the demand curve, total revenue will decrease. So let's, calculate total revenue when a price is equal to 3 and total revenue when a price equal to 1. When a price equal to 3, total revenue is equal price times quantity. So 3, times what? Times, 6. Because when the price is 3, total the quantity is 6. So total revenue, price times quantity, 3 times 6, which is 18, as you can see. And when the price is 1, quantity demanded is what? 8. So the total revenue is equal to 1 times 8, which is 8. So as you can see, total revenue decreases from 18 to 8. Therefore, we prove that demand is inelastic.